Welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And in this episode, we are pitting the Atom versus Ant-Man.
I really can't wait for these simulations because I've always wanted to know exactly who would win in a fight between these two characters.
Absolutely. So these are both legacy characters, right?
Right.
So there have been multiple people in these roles and using these names.
Right.
So the versions of the characters we're going with are Scott Lang, which makes sense because most people are familiar with him because of the movie.
Right.
And Ryan Choi.
Who's been the Atom for quite a few years now.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Injustice 2 video game, he was the Atom in that. He was one of the downloadable special characters. So you may be familiar with him through that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him, so yeah, definitely looking forward to this fight.
Before we get to the battle, we're going to give a news breakdown of news items that have popped up in the past week.
A lot of news items.
Well, it's Comic-Con week.
I thought this was going to be like a drought, kind of.
Me too.
I thought they were saving all the news for Comic-Con, but there's like a lot of little teasers that's happening like in preparation for Comic-Con.
Yeah, I think they're building up hype. So Entertainment Weekly has all of the photos.
Yeah.
And they've released all of them. We're going to touch on a few of them, namely the one they released for the Aquaman film of the Fisherman King. And we're also going to talk about the Aquaman poster that was released.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a few photos that Entertainment Weekly also released for Shazam, and some casting news as well. Marvel has chosen a director for Black Widow, finally!
Yes.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
We'll be talking about that, along with the Birds of Prey roster has been revealed, along with various rumors about what the plot will be and the villain and things like that. So we'll wrap up our news segment with that.
Yep. And just a reminder that this Thursday, as we do every Thursday, we release a bonus episode on our Patreon account, which you can visit by going to patreon.com/dynamicduel. This Thursday, Jonathan will be pitching me on the Aquaman script that we wrote together about a decade ago, actually. We figured we'd go ahead and share it with you guys before the actual Aquaman movie comes out. And,
well, I tweaked it. It's not the exact same one that we wrote and
right.
lost.
Well,
we go into that story in that episode, but honestly, I'm really embarrassed by it now after we recorded it and after seeing like how ambitious this Aquaman film is turning out to be.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, my movie is a piece of shit. I don't want anyone to hear it now. But you can.
No, it's fun. It's fun when we compare the script that we wrote, back when we were wee lads with the actual movie that comes out, later on this year. So to check that out, again, go to patreon.com/dynamicduel. For just $2 a month, you get access to all the bonus episodes we produce weekly. And for the $5 a month tier, you can get access to all the back archives of bonus content we produce.
Yeah, and if you do visit our Patreon page, you'll notice that we have several goals going on right now. Our first one being our goal to reach 25 patrons. Right now, I think we're at 13, but once we hit 25, we will start printing the No Prizes and mailing them to the winners.
Right, the No Prize awards that we award every episode to listeners who answer the question of the week best.
Speaking of No Prizes,
it's No Prize time.
So a No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Last week's question was, name a Marvel or DC film that you feel would have been better if it was rated R, and why? And we got a lot of great answers here. The honorable mention goes to Harrison Fox for his answer with The Dark Knight.
I don't know if I agree with that one, but it was an answer.
It was a decent answer. I mean, it almost was rated R anyway. You could have taken it just a little bit farther.
It was very borderline.
Show the Joker actually shoot somebody in the face.
Actually show the Joker like his knife escaped Gamble's mouth.
And John Spees gave the answer Howard the Duck because he wants to see Leah Thompson naked having sex with a duck.
What a perv!
John Spees, of course, being from the Blast from Our Past podcast. If you haven't listened to that podcast, be sure to check it out because it's fantastic. So the winner of this week's No Prize, though, is CJ Kraft, who answered Ghost Rider. He said, quote, "Could you imagine him taking someone's head off with his chain or burning a guy to a crisp? Plus, they could have done a lot more with the demons if it was rated R." And
absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Ghost Rider should have been a rated R film. I mean, the second Ghost Rider film was pretty hardcore. It wasn't as hardcore as it could have been, I know that the script that David Goyer first wrote way back in the day, in the early part of the 2000s, that was a rated R film. And, it was a little bit weird because he got his his power is not from the devil, but from an Indian shaman or something like that.
Huh.
It was a little bit of a weird story, but it was rated R. It got pretty violent and stuff.
You have to wonder why the studio ever thought a Ghost Rider film, considering the character, shouldn't be rated R.
That's true, yeah. I don't know if Marvel would ever adapt a Ghost Rider film to their cinematic universe, but he could totally be part of the Netflix universe, which, you know, those shows are TVMA, and
yeah.
they're essentially rated R shows. So I'd like to see him at home in that universe, I think. He'd fit right in.
So congrats again to CJ Kraft. If you want to win a No Prize, stay tuned to later on in our news segment where we'll give another question of the week.
Right? And with that out of the way,
on to the news. Okay, so a lot of Aquaman news dropped today. The poster, some set visit reports. It's all fantastic. I want to start with the poster.
I did not read the set visit reports. Are we going to comment on those? Is it spoilers?
I don't necessarily want to.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff is just kind of elaborates on stuff we already know.
Uh-huh.
I do have to say, just in summary of the set reports, that this film, as I said earlier, seems so ambitious. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a standard superhero film. It seems like it's going to be more like some kind of fantasy adventure film. James Wan is saying it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Romancing the Stone. It's very like swashbuckling adventure kind of type film. Amber Heard, who plays Mara in the film, you know, she's gone out and saying just how many genres that this film is tackling, everything from horror to romance to adventure. And it sounds like it's going to be so awesome. I'm so super pumped, even before Comic-Con, about this film.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
The images, especially.
Yeah, this poster looks fantastic. I never thought I would see an Aquaman poster like this. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's really cool. It's Jason Momoa underwater sitting atop a rock with a shit ton of sharks and killer whales all over surrounding him just in the water. And he has like this smile on his face. And there's like this, I can't tell if it's painted or if it's a photograph. I'm not sure what the medium is, but it looks really good. It reminds me of like an old school adventure poster, like Star Wars or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
The way, you know, like Luke's lightsaber lights up. It's just really cool. The tagline on the poster is "Home is Calling," which is interesting.
Yeah, that might give a little hint as to the theme of the movie.
Yeah, we do know because of the set reports, Jason Momoa's arc, Aquaman's arc in this film is going to be one from where he hates Atlantis for sort of making his mother leave him to coming to accept it and being accepted by the people.
Okay.
So the tagline is fitting, I think.
Yeah. They should have called it Aquaman Homecoming.
Far from home, but back home.
But back home.
And the logo at the bottom, still really cool. Still really glad they went with this sort of like tone. It's very, very far removed from like the posters and the imagery that we got from, you know, Zack Snyder's films, whether it be BVS or Justice League.
Right.
It looks like something very different.
I could not honestly probably imagine a better Aquaman poster than this.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's pretty much exactly what it needed to be. And I'm really glad that they seem to have their head in the game as far as the marketing and as far as, you know, the film itself. I'm looking forward to this more than I have any other DC film, except, you know, for maybe Wonder Woman.
Yeah, this gets me really excited for what they're going to show on Saturday. The trailer apparently is dropping on Saturday, so we'll talk about that in our next episode. But the other bit of Aquaman news that I wanted to talk about was a exclusive first look from Entertainment Weekly of the Fisherman King. So as we know from the set reports, when Atlantis sank into the ocean, it split into 7 kingdoms. And each of the 7 kingdoms sort of evolved in their own way. We get our first look at some kind of like mermaid fish hybrid kind of humanoids. The Fisherman King in this photo is played by Djimon Hounsou, who we know from Guardians of the Galaxy.
As Korath.
Right. You can tell it was him just by looking at this photo. This is definitely like a CG performance. But it looks really, really cool. It looks really sleek. With this golden armor, and then, you know, the other denizens next to him, I don't know if that's his wife, I think it is, and daughter, they just look so cool. In the comics, the fisherman is not a king, but it looks like they're making him one for this film. In the comics, he wears this parasitic mask, and he uses like a fishing pole weapon. I don't know.
Is he a villain?
It's kind of bizarre. He's an Aquaman villain.
Oh, interesting.
So we'll see how that turns out. He may just be here as sort of like world building. I don't think he'll play too big of a role. But then again, it's being played by Djimon Hounsou. the guy's a good actor. He's a recognizable actor.
Yeah,
Again,
so-
not that he's recognizable in this, but you don't cast him unless...
It's a somewhat sizable role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of somewhat sizable roles being played by Djimon Hounsou,
Apparently he's pulling double duty in the DC universe because he's also been cast as the wizard Mamaragan, who is, I believe, a aboriginal deity.
is his name not Shazam? I thought the wizard's name was Shazam.
The superhero's name is Shazam now.
Oh, that's right.
If you remember from our Shazam versus Black Bolt Duel episode, I mentioned that there was a council of wizards. All of them were killed by Black Adam. One of them survived. It was Mamaragan. Mm-hmm. The different 7 wizards were from like different continents around the world. He was the last survivor, and he was the one who bestowed the power on Billy Batson. I remember originally they were... I forget the name of the guy who they originally cast. I guess the scheduling didn't work out, but he was in Luke Cage.
Oh, Bobby Fish.
Yeah, he plays Bobby Fish. So he was originally going to play this character.
Right.
But I guess it didn't work out. But I love the casting of Djimon Hounsou. I think he's going to be a terrific wizard.
Oh, yeah, totally. He has a certain presence about him that you want.
I really liked him as Papa Midnight, and now he's like stepping up his game from sorcerer to wizard. It's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this casting, and I'm becoming a big fan of this film in general. The 2 photos that we got from Entertainment Weekly in the past few days look like it's shaping up to be a pretty good time at the movies.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, pretty funny. The first photo we have is of Zachary Levi as Shazam standing next to Freddie Freeman in front of like a convenience store, and they're drinking cola.
Yeah. I know, like, a lot of people who have commented on this photo are saying that, oh, it should be beer, you know? And I kind of agree. Like, it would make more sense for an adult to enjoy purchasing something that he wouldn't be able to purchase normally.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is happening here, and I do hope this happens in the movie, is that he tries buying beer and he gives one to Freddie and they try drinking it and they spit it out and they're just like, gross. And then they end up buying this soda instead.
No, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Oh, what?
There was footage leaked from some Ukrainian film festival where they showed snippets of footage from the Shazam film. And part of the leaked footage was of them both drinking something, beer, and then spitting it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I totally called it.
So all these people who are afraid or concerned by the photo of them drinking soda,
Am I psychic?
they should not be concerned.
I'm kind of freaked out right now.
No, it's just a really obvious joke, but it's a good one.
fuck
It's a
you
good one.
then.
It looks like it's
I'm psychic.
it's a good joke. Like I laughed when I saw it.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much else in the leaked footage, but the other photo we got was pretty cool from Entertainment Weekly. It's a Freddie Freeman and Shazam again, but Freddie Freeman is like holding Shazam's chest plate, which is glowing.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, I really like the light up glow effect.
Yeah, because in the convenience store photo, it wasn't glowing. It was like yellow.
Right.
But in this photo, it's definitely a bright white light.
Right.
So maybe it lights up when he's using his power, or it lights up on under various circumstances. We don't know yet, but it looks cool. It looks really cool when it's lit up.
Yeah, I'm even more excited for this one now.
Yeah, me too. I think that's all the Shazam stuff.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to Black Widow. After months of searching for a director, Marvel has finally announced that Cate Shortland has been tapped to direct the Black Widow film. Now, when they first announced this, I was like, who? Because she has very few credits to her name.
Yeah.
She's done a lot of indie stuff, mostly European stuff. She's been praised for a movie that she created called, I think it's not pronounced Lore. Lore, yeah. It's a movie about this daughter of a Nazi soldier who gets separated from her family and ends up getting saved by a Jewish guy, and they end up like falling in love or something like that. I'm just summarizing. In general, I don't really know if that's what the movie is about because I don't speak German. But there was another movie that she directed called Berlin Syndrome that looks very much more in the vein of what I think a great Black Widow movie should be, which is, really intense, vaguely Eastern European feeling with great angles and really frenetic action.
She's really good at framing. Like, I don't know who her cinematographer is or if she does her own. But I watched the trailers for a few of her films, and they're very art house.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of surprised that they chose her, considering that there wasn't too much action in any of them.
Except for Berlin Syndrome, I thought towards the end it got pretty intense. But you're right, Marvel's never really gone down this route before, where they're getting a director that feels more like an auteur, someone who doesn't really create the Marvel brand popcorn style movie, and someone who creates something that's more along the lines of what, just a darker, more realistic take on something.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be in the Marvel brand or if they're trying to do something different.
They may be trying to mix it up with, after the Infinity War films, they might be trying to experiment a little bit more to prevent, Marvel fatigue, which maybe they're afraid might happen. I commend them for this choice, though. Like, I remember when Red Sparrow came out, I was so envious of the feel and the tone of those trailers. I never saw Red Sparrow, mainly out of protest, because, in concept, it seems so similar to the character of Black Widow, where you have this former ballerina Russian spy, and I don't even know if that's what the movie ended up being about. The tone of that was very much what I wanted for a Marvel Black Widow film, and it's really cool because Cate Shortland, if you look at her, the films that she's done, it seems to be very much in that same vein of Red Sparrow.
Yeah, she could capture that feel, I think.
Yeah. Just, like slightly creepy, but also very beautiful. Not creepy. I say creepy, and I mean like
unnerving,
dark, a little bit
dark,
sinister.
Yeah. Something
Something that fits the tone of a spy film really well.
It doesn't sound like Marvel, but I think this is a fantastic choice. I would really like to see Marvel step outside of their own brand, I think. I don't know if people are going to like it because, the way Black Widow was introduced in Iron Man 2 and the way, she keeps popping up in the Avengers films, she's sort of comedic in a way.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm wondering, even more so than the action, I would say the director choice leaves me questioning more about her ability to do comedy.
Yeah, to hit those lighthearted notes the characters are kind of already known for already.
Right.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
I mean, she may be able to do it. I love this casting, but I do have those questions. And I guess we'll see as time goes on. I'm not sure when this is coming out. Do you think it'll come out next year?
They haven't announced when it's coming out. It's probably going to come out in 2020 is what I'm guessing. But I really can't wait for that. It's a risk what they're doing here. But, it's a risk that may pay off greatly if the film turns out to be really good.
Yeah, I love auteurs. I hope it's great. Yeah, I think it will be.
Mm-hmm.
So the last bit of news is that the Birds of Prey roster has been revealed by The Wrap, by Humberto Gonzalez.
And this is confirmed news, or is this still rumor?
You could consider this confirmed, because this is from one of the trades. Humberto Gonzalez doesn't really deal in rumors too much anymore, just because of the publication he's writing for. But there were other bits of news that were also released last night from Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer. So first, the roster is going to entail Harley Quinn, who we know.
Lame.
Black Canary.
Cool.
Huntress. Cool.
Good.
Cassandra Cain.
Okay.
And Renee Montoya.
Weird, but okay.
Do you know who Renee Montoya is?
She is the new Question.
I don't know if she's still the Question in New 52. I think she might be.
She was a detective.
She became the Question in the weekly series 52. Yeah, she was a GCPD detective who was kind of trained by the Question to sort of supplant him once he died. So, yeah, she's the Question. I don't know if she's going to be the Question in this film. He didn't refer to her as the Question. He referred to her as Renee Montoya. Okay. So, who knows?
Maybe she'll get a spinoff.
Yeah. Now, according to The Wrap and Grace Randolph, Barbara Gordon is not going to be in this film.
That's horrible.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's horrible. She's a staple of Birds of Prey.
She's one of the founding 2 members of the Birds of Prey. I almost would rather have her in here than Huntress, I don't know why Harley Quinn is in this film. I could see the rest of them. I don't understand why Barbara Gordon wouldn't be in this film. Even if she wasn't Batgirl, if you're going to have Cassandra Cain be Batgirl.
Right.
Which it sounds like she's going to be more of like a hit girl type. She's going to be young. It's going to be kind of like Logan, where Cassandra Cain is a young girl.
Okay.
So she may not be Batgirl, but if Barbara Gordon could still be Oracle. If she's not in the film, who's going to be like your tech support? Who's going to be, your
man in the chair?
Sky? Yeah, man in the chair. Yeah, exactly. I'm not happy with it. I'm excited that we get to see Cassandra Cain. Oh, and I guess Lady Shiva might be in the film as well.
Oh, really?
That kind of goes without saying if Cassandra Cain is going to be in there, since Lady Shiva is her mom. But apparently the villain is going to be David Cain. And I guess the storyline is going to revolve around Harley Quinn, Black Canary, Huntress, and Renee Montoya rescuing Cassandra Cain from her father, who's training her to become the world's most perfect assassin.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer that Barbara Gordon's not going to be in the movie, but there are 2 bright spots in Black Canary and Huntress. I'm excited to see those characters come to the big screen finally.
Yeah, we did dual episodes with both of those characters.
Right.
We did Black Canary versus Black Widow, which is fitting,
Yes.
considering the previous news. And we also did Huntress versus Jessica Jones.
Yeah, those are both great characters, and I'm really interested in seeing who they cast for them because they're both in the upper tier of like female DC characters. So
Yeah, I wonder
it's
if
a
we'll
big
get-
it's a big deal.
I wonder if we'll get casting news during Comic-Con. Because, they're releasing this information early for some reason. Like, I wonder why they didn't wait to release this until Comic-Con, or if this was just a scoop by the Wrap.
Right, because this could have been a San Diego Comic-Con announcement.
Yeah, for sure. But, yeah, maybe they'll already have casting news by then. We'll see.
Yeah.
All in all, I have mixed feelings about this. I feel like the key component, I feel like the star of the Birds of Prey film, and we've said this before, isn't Harley Quinn. It should be Barbara Gordon.
Right. Just replace Harley Quinn with Barbara Gordon.
And you have a perfect movie.
Yeah, perfect Birds of Prey announcement, basically. This is just like announcing like the first Justice League movie, but instead of Batman, the Penguin's on the team or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty weird. But we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
I mean, even if Barbara makes a small cameo, I'll be mostly satisfied.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate a cameo either. If that's all I could get, yeah,
Right.
give me a cameo for sure.
Yeah.
We'll
At
see.
least a cameo,
At least.
goddammit.
This all kind of leads to our question of the week.
So you can't really answer this one until the weekend of Comic-Con, but what was your favorite news item from San Diego Comic-Con 2018? We're going to be talking about all the Marvel and DC news that comes out of it, but we're really excited to hear about what you're excited about. So go ahead and post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media.
Yeah, I think that's everything. Let's find out who would win in a fight between Adam and Ant-Man. All right, so the Atom versus Ant-Man. If it's not obvious why we're pitting these two characters together, you probably don't know too much about them, in which case you're listening to the right podcast.
Yes, because we're going to let you know all about them, and then we're going to speculate on how we think a fight between the two characters will go, and then we'll actually run simulations based on their stats to determine who actually would win in a fight between the two.
Yeah, we're pitting them against each other because they're both shrinking superheroes.
Yes, they both alter their size.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the gist of it.
Well, they could both shrink while retaining their regular mass, so they retain their regular strength at a smaller size.
Right.
They're both very comparable.
Yeah, and as Joseph mentioned earlier, there's no votes here. There's no uncharacteristic feats of strength. It's just all stats all the time, and that's how we determine our winner.
That's science.
Numbers don't lie.
Because we get those numbers from a probabilistic model known as the Monte Carlo method. It's the same system that old Spike TV show, Deadliest Warrior.
Deadliest Warrior.
They used to use this method, and basically it randomizes each character's stats among a bell curve, along a standard deviation, basically. And then we compare those numbers against each other, and we do that 1,000 times.
It's math, and it's more importantly, it's used in a lot of other applications for its accuracy.
Yes. And like we said earlier, before we run the simulations, let's go ahead and give a breakdown of the characters, their histories, and their abilities. Let's start with Ant-Man.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with Hank Pym, I think. I don't know too much about Scott Lang.
Yeah, it's I do feel somewhat bad going with Scott Lang over Hank Pym. Scott Lang is the successor to Henry Pym, the original Ant-Man, but Scott is the current and likely lasting version of this superhero in the comics, since he's gotten so much promotion from the Ant-Man films.
Yeah.
And the fact that Henry Pym is currently merged with Ultron in the comics. Scott's not as well versed in physics and biochemistry as Pym necessarily, but, he's more emotionally stable. They kind of screwed Hank Pym over in the comics by making him so unstable.
Yeah.
Scott's greatest quality, I think, is his love for his daughter, Cassie. He seems to be able to balance the role of costumed adventurer and father, maybe the best out of all the superheroes, though his love for his family could also be considered his greatest weakness, as he occasionally, rashly does things to protect them that puts his own life and freedom at risk. So Scott was a talented electronics engineer who, despite his work as an electrical repairman, could not support his wife Peggy and their young daughter Cassie. Due to their financial struggles, he resorted to burglary to help his family make ends meet. However, he wasn't a very good criminal and was quickly arrested and sent to jail for 3 years. Peggy divorced him while he was on the inside. Despite his hardships, he continued his electrical engineering education and qualified for early parole for good behavior in just a few years. After getting out of prison, he landed a job at Stark International as a security system engineer and installer. Things went well for a while as Scott shared joint custody of Cassie, but one day as they were playing in the park, she suffered from severe chest pains that the doctor diagnosed as a congenital heart defect where she wasn't getting enough blood flow. Even with Scott's salary, Cassie's condition worsened to the point where he couldn't afford the medical bills and she was on the verge of dying. Seeing no other option to save her life, Scott returned to burglary. Adding to his problems was the fact that the cardiac specialist who could help Cassie all of a sudden went missing. So Scott scouted a well-off New Jersey home with an advanced security system that he felt might contain something valuable. After bypassing all the systems, he discovered the only thing in the home's vault was the Ant-Man suit, belonging to Henry Pym, who at the time was retired to focus on his scientific research, retired as a superhero.
Yeah.
Scott saw the suit as an opportunity to find and rescue the cardiac specialist, who was being held prisoner by Darren Cross, the president of Cross Technologies. Hidden in the background the entire time watching Scott was a shrunken Henry Pym, who was aware of Scott's break-in and burglary of the suit. Scott planned on returning the suit to Henry and turning himself into the authorities, but Henry was so impressed not only with Scott's ability to bypass his security system and steal the suit, but also the courage that Scott presented in fighting Darren Cross and rescuing the doctor. Henry offered to let Scott keep the suit and take on the mantle of Ant-Man, provided he used it for lawful means only. In these early days, as Ant-Man, Scott never really fought villains on his own, but instead became a valuable ally assisting other superheroes and teams. A team-upper, as it were.
Yeah.
As he was already a Stark employee, one of his first tasks was by Iron Man, who asked him to help by spying on Justin Hammer. Scott later resigned from Stark Industries when it was acquired by Tony Stark's enemy, Obadiah Stane, and opened up his own electronics business. He went on journeys with the Fantastic Four into the Microverse, and became Reed Richards' replacement on the team for a time.
Did you say the Microverse?
Yes.
I thought in the movies it's called something different. It's called the...
In the movies, it's called the Quantum Realm, because there were characters that were in the Microverse that are owned by Hasbro, and so Hasbro currently owns the film rights to the, quote, Microverse. So they got to call it the Quantum Realm in the movies.
Okay.
So Scott was instrumental in helping the Avengers defeat the Masters of Evil and Taskmaster, who became his most consistent foe for a time. After a stint in Heroes for Hire alongside Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Black Knight, Scott became a full-fledged Avenger after helping them against King the Conqueror. He died, however, when the Scarlet Witch went insane for a time and attacked the Avengers. His daughter Cassie took up his mantle as the size-changing hero called Stature, who joined a team called the Young Avengers. Scott was eventually brought back to life by the Scarlet Witch, who remembered the damage she had caused. The father and daughter fought alongside each other against Dr. Doom, who killed Cassie, and she died in Scott's arms.
Oh no.
But she was also brought back later during the Axis event when Marvel's good guys became evil and their villains became good.
Does death have no meaning?
Dr. Doom resurrected Cassie out of guilt, and she and Scott reunited.
That's nice.
That whole Cassie's death thing, the temporary death though, left her mother kind of freaked out, and she took it out on Scott and took sole custody of Cassie and moved to Miami with her. He followed his family there and opened a security services company. That's pretty recent in the comics. So that's his history. Powers-wise, Ant-Man has the ability to shunt his volume and mass to and from the cosmos, which is an extra physical dimension that opens up when the subatomic particles known as Pym particles are activated. I always thought it was the Microverse that he shunted his volume and mass to.
Yeah.
Apparently, I never read any Ant-Man comics where Cosmos was explicitly referenced, but now I know. Total mind blow. But yeah, through this process, Scott can shrink and grow with certain limitations. Though he can reduce himself to a subatomic size, doing so enters him into the Microverse, known in the films as the Quantum Realm, as we mentioned earlier. He can also grow to a practical height of about 60 feet, and I say practical because although he can grow larger, he can't for an extended period of time without wearing himself out due to the strain on his body and lack of oxygen to fill his lungs. When Scott shrinks, he can vary his mass to be as light as a feather or as weighty as he is at normal size. Alternatively, when Scott grows, his mass increases to give him strength proportionate to his size. At 10 feet tall, he can lift about 1,000 pounds or a half ton.
Where does he get the extra mass from?
From the microverse. Or, I'm sorry, the cosmos. See, I gotta reteach myself. At 50 feet tall, he can lift about 25 tons. And at 100 feet tall, he can lift about 50 tons. He can also expose other living and non-living objects to the PIM particles to cause them to shrink or grow, though I've never seen this done from a distance like the blasters in the films. It's always within touching distance, as he keeps the PIM particles in his gauntlets. His wrist gauntlets can also fire electric blasts, like the Wasp, which can feel like a sharp sting.
Oh, really?
His helmet allows him to communicate with and control ants and other insects within a 1-mile radius. He typically commands several ants to stay in close proximity with him at all times in case he needs to fly somewhere or carry something. However, note that an ant can only fly about 5 miles per hour, which is like a typical walking speed. Considering that and the fact that he doesn't really employ the ants too much as warriors, I'm not sure the ants will play a large, if any, part in these simulations. It's just too large of a variable. I mean, he does sometimes use the ants to overwhelm an enemy, but who's to say whether he'll be in charge of 1 ant or a dozen ants or 100 ants?
Right.
You know, we'd have to run the numbers on all of those scenarios.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep it simple and say he only has 1 flying ant he uses as transportation.
Okay. His size increasing ability does concern me because I know that that's going to help him in the stats, though I don't know how it's going to help him in the speculation.
Why?
Just because if the atom gets really small, there's nothing that a giant can do to him.
Yeah, it could stomp his ass.
If he's subatomic? I don't know. We'll see.
One thing that I didn't get to mention yet is that in addition to all the powers that he has, Scott is also an expert thief and computer hacker.
I didn't know he was an engineer. That's cool.
Yeah, yep. And I know nothing about this version. What's his name? Ryan Choi?
Ryan Choi.
Yeah, I've never seen anything with him. So I know a lot about Ray Palmer, but I don't know much about this guy, so I'm interested in seeing how he compares.
Yeah, so in the New 52, they really integrated Ryan Choi into the Atom's origin, into Ray Palmer's origin.
Oh, really?
And that was pretty cool. So he definitely seems like more of a more ideal successor, or one that's not as off-putting as successors kind of typically are. I kind of hate the idea of successors sometimes.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't, considering the fact that I like DC, and they're all about legacy.
So many legacy characters in DC.
Yeah. But let me tell you about Ryan Choi. When Ivy University professor Ray Palmer decided to become the Atom, the first person he told was his assistant/protege, Ryan Choi. Ryan grew up in Hong Kong and idolized Professor Palmer long before he ever became a superhero for his pioneering discoveries in physics and chemistry. Ryan was only a teenager when he received his doctorate, and after his mother died, he decided to move to America to do his postdoctorate work at the prestigious Ivy University with Professor Palmer. Together, they made many new discoveries, published articles, developed patents, and attained numerous awards and accolades. Their research eventually led to the creation of a size-altering biobelt developed from the matter of a white dwarf star, allowing Professor Palmer to become the shrinking superhero known as the Atom. Now, Ryan's asthma, allergies, and agoraphobia kept him in the lab, which he preferred. Whenever the Atom was off heroing, Ryan was analyzing data from Professor Palmer's suit and providing tech support under the codename Newton Base.
Newton Base?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that changed when Professor Palmer went missing. After a week, Ryan finally received a message from Professor Palmer. While investigating a disruption deep in the temporal nanostructure of the timeline, Professor Palmer shrunk beyond the subatomic and discovered the microverse.
What?
Where he was trapped.
What a fucking ripoff.
I don't think so. I don't know. Donning a biobelt and teaming up with the Justice League of America, Ryan found Professor Palmer in the microverse and helped save him from a villain named Ott.
They couldn't call it like the miniverse or the teeny-verse?
No, they called
like,
it
like in Rick and Morty?
They called it the microverse. Ott had planned on destroying the microverse along with the rest of the reality, as the microverse is part of the connective tissue that binds the multiverse. Wow. Professor Palmer decided to stay in the microverse and explore its paths to the multiverse, giving Ryan his blessing to carry on his mantle as the Atom. In his first solo adventure as the Atom in Ivytown, Ryan stumbled upon a microscopic alien society named the Waiting. They were in a war with a monstrous creature called, I'm gonna mess this up, Managala, over science versus magic. Both sides tried to capture Ryan, but he escaped. and in his research, overheard that his and Professor Palmer's experiments and seemingly impossible exploits were responsible for warping the fabric of reality in Ivy Town's vicinity, making it a nexus of paranormal activity. Many people in the town believed they were from different time periods or spoke in strange, non-existent languages.
Weird.
In reality, Professor Palmer's arch-nemesis, the time-traveling supervillain Kronos, was responsible for the weirdness around Ivy Town, placing time-displaced people in the town and orchestrating events that would lead to the war, spilling into a normal-sized world and involving many science and magic-based supervillains, including Killer Frost and Giganta. Kronos had also given a biobelt to a serial killer who went by the name Dwarfstar, and who would become Ryan's sworn enemy. Ryan was able to negotiate a truce on both sides, down to the microscopic realm, in addition to trapping Dwarfstar down there without his biobelt. While Ivy Town returned to a semblance of normalcy, Ryan performed close examinations of the biobelt, and he discovered that the size-changing ability it granted him wasn't due to the white dwarf star material, but rather matter-borrowing microscopic creatures that had been introduced into his bloodstream from the white dwarf star. They were like worms.
What? Like aliens living within the star or something?
I'm not sure how
Microscopic
it works.
organisms?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Weird.
Ever the scientist, Ryan enlarged one of the worms to dissect it, but it escaped and seemingly devoured several Ivy Town residents, including a number of Ivy University professors who happened to be Ryan's close friends.
Jeez.
They were a part of a group that named themselves the Lighter Than Air Society, and they helped Ryan in much the same way that he helped Professor Palmer when he was the Atom. Ryan was also attacked by the worm and found himself trapped in the microverse, along with his colleagues. Before he could come up with a way to return everyone to normal size, he was whisked away to the future by Lady Kronos, Kronos' wife, who turned out to be Ryan's first love, Gia, and the mother of Dwarfstar.
Wow, this gets really complicated.
Saved and returned to his time by Booster Gold, Ryan discovered he no longer needed the belt to change his size, and with the help of Professor Palmer, they were able to use components from their last biobelt to save everyone from the microverse. Ryan was actually killed during the events of Brightest Day by Deathstroke, who had been hired by Dwarfstar. This was pre-New 52, and it was later discovered in a post-Flashpoint event called Convergence that reintroduced many pre-New 52 characters that Ryan actually faked his death by shrinking really small.
Okay.
I don't know, it's dumb.
So he wasn't killed by Deathstroke?
No, but it didn't matter anyway because right after that is when the New 52 happened. So,
okay.
Power-wise, Ryan can shrink down to subatomic levels instantly while adjusting his mass, weight, and density to any level from his normal size measurements on down. His biobelt contains a singularity field generator, which provides a usable atmosphere around him and helps stabilize anything shrunk by the belt, as it initially used to make shrunken things explode. He has a genius-level intellect and is among the world's foremost authorities on nuclear physics and nanotechnology. He also has some martial arts training from his childhood in Hong Kong. While he did suffer from agoraphobia and acrophobia, which is a fear of heights, he does seem to be fully cured of those ailments as well as his asthma. He also employs various gadgets, including what he calls a bang stick, which is a pretty cool device, and I think sets
sounds
him...
gross.
Giganta makes that joke in the comic frequently, I think. It's a device that I think sets him sort of like a level above Ray Palmer. It's a shaft that has 2 particle accelerator drives on either end that allows him to fly at high speeds and travel greater distances at a small size than he'd normally be able to. He could essentially keep up with other heroes thanks to this device.
Oh, that's cool.
He holds it like it's a trapeze bar, or he rides it like a surfboard, and he could also use it offensively as a weapon to fire off concussive blasts.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So, what are you going to do with that?
Well, Ant-Man has his own blasts anyway, so, you know, I'll deal with it is what I'll do with that.
Yeah, I didn't know Ant-Man had that. That sucks.
Yeah. All right, so now that we got the character bios out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about how we think one of these 1,000 simulated matches will go. Now, The only rules that we set up for the match are that it takes place in no environment, because we don't actually take stats for the environment, because certain characters can be other characters in one environment, as opposed to another. So we just say there's no environment, or it plays no bearing on the fight whatsoever. It's just the strengths of the characters themselves.
Right.
The other rule we say is that when they appear on the battlefield, they know that they have to defeat each other, but they otherwise don't know anything else about the other character.
They also start off about 50 yards apart.
Yeah. Yep. Just to provide just a little bit of starting distance.
Okay, so I'm wondering, who's going to start first and what they're going to do.
So I definitely think Scott is going to start first, just because the way you described Ryan Choi, he kind of seems like a little bit shy, a little bit hesitant, a little bit more observant.
He's
as
a little
scientist.
bit more timid.
Yeah. So I think Scott's going to start this one off, and he's going to charge. He's going to just start running toward the Atom, and the Atom's going to kind of take a step back and just brace himself, ready for whatever attack is going to come. I was going to have him fire his blasters from the start, but I was I've never really seen Scott use his blasters from long range. It's usually always a short range blast.
Not like the Wasp?
Not like the Wasp, no.
Okay. Yeah, Ryan Choi is kind of similar. His bank stick, it's not like he shoots a laser. It's it's a concussive force.
Yeah.
So the range on it isn't too great.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that the Atom is probably going to pull out his bank stick and get ready to hit.
Yeah. Once he sees him coming for him, he's I'm pulling out my bank stick. What's going on here?
Yeah. But Ant-Man, he's going to shrink right within jumping distance, and he's going to jump kick the Atom straight in the chest, and the Atom's not going to know what happened because he didn't see it coming.
I guess that's fair, because he didn't necessarily know that Ant-Man could shrink. I do find it hard to believe that he would just watch him run the entire way, but that is kind of like Ryan Choi, maybe.
He didn't just watch him run all the way up to him.
He did brace himself.
He was surprised because all of a sudden he couldn't see Ant-Man anymore.
Okay. So he gets knocked back, and once he's on the ground, he realizes that he's dealing with someone like him, someone who could shrink and someone who could...
Or someone who could turn invisible. It was probably an invisible
No, he
attack.
saw what happened. He saw him shrink. So he shrinks right away, fires up the bank stick, and goes out on patrol, I guess, looking for him? It's like finding a needle in a haystack now, because they're both really small.
Yeah, that's true. The playing field that they're fighting on just got a whole lot bigger than, just 50 yards apart. Right now, they're probably a lot farther than that.
Relative yards,
right?
Yeah, farther than 50 yards.
But Scott
Scott
has probably realized that Atom has disappeared himself, so he's probably flying around on his ant trying to search for the Atom as well.
But the Atom is a lot faster with his bank stick than
How do you know?
a carpenter ant.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. You said carpenter ants only fly 5 miles an hour. The Atom could fly faster than that with his bank stick.
5 miles an hour, in terms of actual distance. When you're shrunk down that small, it's a lot faster than that. If carpenter ants were the size of human beings, their flight speed would be more 35 miles per hour. So he's zipping along pretty quick.
But he's not that size.
Scale.
He's the size of a normal ant. So the Atom is still faster than him.
Whatever.
Okay, so he's cruising around on his bank stick, and he spots Ant-Man from a distance. So then he shrinks even smaller, and then zooms towards him and punches him right in the jaw. And then grows to Ant-Man's size.
So, are you saying that the Atom just pulled a sneak attack like what Ant-Man did to Atom at the start of this match?
I guess. They're just going to keep shrinking and punching each other this whole time.
I wonder if this fight is going to end up in the microverse.
I wonder. Yeah, they both have a microverse.
We'll find out. Okay, so Scott's flying around, and all of a sudden he gets surprised attack in the same way that he surprised attacked the Atom. And he's probably what the heck is going on? And he looks up, and he sees the Atom...
Who's the same size as him.
About the same size as him. So he's okay, so I'm small, this guy's small, he can shrink size just like me. How does he fare against someone who can grow? So, right now, they're what, an eighth of an inch tall?
Yeah.
So...
Oh, that's tiny.
Ant-Man is gonna grow to, 6 inches tall. And he's gonna grab Atom, and he's just gonna throw him to the ground, and then stomp on him.
At 6 inches tall?
Yeah, well, 6 inches tall is a lot bigger than an eighth of an inch tall.
Yeah, he'll have to do that pretty quick. Okay, so he grabs him, throws him to the ground.
Yeah.
And then as he's about to stomp on him, the Atom grows bigger in size.
How big?
Full size.
Full human size?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So now Ant-Man is just an action figure.
Yeah.
Who's probably getting flown through the air by trying to stomp on an adult-sized man who just grew.
Yeah, Atom just flung him off of him.
All right. It's so difficult. Okay, so then he's like, oh, so he could grow that big too. So Ant-Man starts growing to, let's see, a height of like 50 feet tall.
Okay.
And now Adam is screwed because he can't grow taller than his original size. So Ant-Man's gonna look down at him and be like, what now? What now? Do something.
Okay, so that's when the Atom shrinks back down. Does the Ant-Man's helmet have like a heads-up display? Can he track something the size of Atom when he's that big?
Not that I've seen, no.
Okay, good. Because when he gets really big, the Atom gets really small again. And he uses his bang stick to track down his ant, and he blasts off the carpenter ant's wings.
That's messed up.
That's what happens.
Animal cruelty. So basically you're taking Ant-Man's transportation out of the picture.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's nothing that Ant-Man can really do when he's that big to the Atom if you can't really see him.
But guess what? So he was communicating with the ant, and he commands the ant, even though he doesn't have his wings, to bite the Atom.
Oh no!
So he just gets like the pinchers just wrap around the Atom, and so they're like crushing.
Okay.
And at this point, Ant-Man is shrinking back down to investigate the scene and be like, yeah, go Antonio.
He grew for no reason.
Yeah. Just to intimidate. I guess.
Adam is fighting an ant now. And those things I think they're kind of strong. But I mean, so is the Atom. He's stronger than an ant when he's the same size as an ant. So he punches that ant right in his damn face.
And it probably explodes from the
Oh, jeez. Oh, no. Now he's covered in ant organs and
Ant-Man's like,
brains.
you're going to pay for that. And he like jumps into him like a flea. And as he jumps into him with both fists, he fires up his blasts and shocks the Atom pretty good.
Okay. Okay, so the Atom gets knocked back and he's stunned. Yeah, he's stunned, isn't he?
Yeah, he'd be stunned. He'd be, reeling from the electrical shock. And at that point, Ant-Man is going to capitalize on that, run up to him, and just start punching him, like, over and over, like, laying waste to him.
Okay, that's when... Are they, like, flying through the air right now, or are they on the ground?
I don't know where they are. I think they're on the ground.
Okay.
They can't, like, hover or anything,
Yeah.
So.
I guess they wouldn't be in the air because the Atom took out the ant's wings, so the ant's on the ground.
Right, but I mean, they could jump really high like fleas, so they might be fighting, like, midair on
tumbling.
the way toward landing toward the ground, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
At any rate, at this point, they're on the ground.
Okay, so the Atom's on the ground, getting attacked, but that's when he does, like, this sweet kung fu move where he sideswipes Ant-Man's leg, and he ends up on top, and now he's attacking Ant-Man, trying to put his bang stick through Ant-Man's helmet to break it.
Okay, well, I know. Actually, no. Ant-Man could get out of this easy just by growing.
Oh, shit.
I was going to say he might succumb to the Atom because if they're the same size, he may not stand a chance because the Atom's a better fighter.
Okay.
Because I forgot that he knows Kung Fu and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Ant-Man can easily get out of it either by shrinking or growing. So as the Atom is pounding on Ant-Man's helmet with his bang stick, Ant-Man is going to shrink to evade one of the blows.
Okay.
And then grow back while in the middle of doing an uppercut. So he's going to
Oh, snap!
send Atom flying.
That's a good move.
Yeah!
That is a really good move.
Thanks.
Okay.
And then he's going to leap after him, and now they're doing that thing where they're fighting in the air.
Okay. So they're fighting in the air, and that's when the Atom notices that in the comics, Ant-Man doesn't have his mouth, like, guarded, does he?
It depends on who's drawing him. I think currently in the comics, his mouth is exposed.
Okay. So that's when he shrinks down, goes into Scotling's nose, into his sinuses, and starts banging around with his bang stick and just giving him a really bad headache and messing with his equilibrium.
So if Ant-Man shrinks while the Atom is in Ant-Man's body, what happens?
I think the Atom would shrink at the same rate because it's like Ant-Man's clothes shrink.
Right. Yeah.
Along with him. So anything with like in his general field.
Right. That's correct. Yeah, he does. It's sort of like a field that envelopes his body as he's shrinking.
I think I just fucking won this. He inches.
Oh my god, that's right. So no matter, as long as the Atom stays inside Ant-Man's body, no matter what size Ant-Man shrinks to or grows to, the Atom is still gonna stay relative size.
I mean, unless like the Atom decided to grow inside of Ant-Man's head
and exploded.
Yep, that's what happens. I win. I win. Game, set, match.
How do you do? I don't even know how to. He would have to. But as the atom is growing inside of Ant-Man's head, Scott decides to electrocute his face with his own bioelectric gloves.
So the atom is stunned within...
They're both stunned.
They're both stunned. They both just got stunned. This is like horrifying.
That is. That really is. Which one gets small enough to shrink into the other one's body, that's the one that wins, automatically.
Basically.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, with that kind of stalemate situation going, let's go ahead and take it to the simulations and find out who would actually win based on their stats.
Yeah, let's run the stats. I'm still kind of disturbed by how that fight ended. It's very like Scanners. You like that movie?
Yeah. It got weirder than I thought it would, honestly. It's hard because with relative sizes, it's hard to make physical contact or make sense of like any type of physical interaction.
Right.
So that was interesting.
Or even like spatial interaction.
Right, exactly. Like where they are off the ground at any given moment.
Right, exactly.
It was just weird. But a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that one. The stats were a lot of fun to extrapolate too. Of course, we always go off the Marvel Power Rankings and we extrapolate the DC stats from that.
But they kind of went like tit for tat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, one of them is faster, but one of them is stronger. One of them is a better fighter, but one of them, has a greater durability. Right. Especially when he's big and cheating.
A lot of the stats that the Ant-Man was better in was mainly due to the fact that he can actually grow into Giant Man,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. They did go tit for tat. There was a lot of different things. Like we said that the Atom was slightly smarter than Scott Lang, which I didn't believe at first because Scott Lang is really smart. He's great in his field, basically.
But it's not like he has a doctorate. It's not like he's teaching at like the world's most prestigious university.
Right. He has a master's, which is pretty good.
I guess that's not cool.
What? So yeah, the results of this are really exciting, I think, and may not have come out the way that you would think they would.
I am nervous.
You're nervous?
I am nervous.
All right, so we ran 1,000 simulations using the Monte Carlo method, and we have determined the winner between Ryan Choi's The Atom and Scott Lang's Ant-Man. And the winner is The Atom.
Yes! Yes!
No, I'm just kidding. It was Ant-Man.
What?
I haven't messed with you.
Dude, you're not allowed to do that.
I haven't messed with you like that in a really long time.
You said you would never do that again. I hate you.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
Damn it.
Okay, so Ant-Man actually beats the Atom. Out of 1,000 matches, Ant-Man won 669. And the Atom won 331. So 66.9% of the time, Ant-Man beats the Atom. And this is mainly due to the fact that Ant-Man can grow. So, it's going to be really hard for either of them to hit each other no matter what. But if, the Atom is ever at normal size and Scott, managed to grow bigger, the Atom's done for.
Yeah. This is why we do 1,000 simulations, because there are so many variables. And the Monte Carlo method accounts for those.
Yeah.
Shit.
I'm guessing that in each match that the Atom wins, it was due to a head explosion. And in each match that Ant-Man wins, it was either due to a head explosion or, a stomp in the face. So, yeah, I'm really glad that Ant-Man won this one because I really love the character. I'm glad he's finally getting his due. And all of our friends when we were growing up who thought Ant-Man was lame can suck it. Because Ant-Man's the champ. And this is even without the ants taken into consideration. If you consider, the ants, then the Atom has less of a chance, I would think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that does it for this episode. Go ahead and take these results to the bank and cash that check. Because they're accurate. It's science, yeah, as we mentioned before. So, all right, go ahead and let us know what you guys think of this episode by reaching out to us via social media, either on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. You can just do a search for a Dynamic Duel Podcast and you'll find us there. Or you can email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you guys think about this one.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you think of our podcast in general. If you could review us, or if you could just, tell your friends about us. It really helps spread the word.
Jonathan and I suck at marketing, so you guys are our marketing tool. So please help spread that word, especially if you know somebody who's a big fan of Marvel or DC or both.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can visit dynamicduel.com and you'll get links to our merch store where you can check out lots of cool Marvel and DC designs to buy that both Jonathan and I designed.
Whether t-shirts or mugs.
Pillows.
That's another way to spread the word. Nothing says, like, I'm a big fan of this podcast, like I'm wearing their t-shirt.
Right, exactly, yeah. That does it for this episode. In our next episode, it'll be strictly a news episode, actually, because there's always so much to talk about after Comic-Con every year that we just don't have time for anything else, basically.
Yeah, just like our previous years, the whole episode is dedicated to news.
Yeah, so definitely look forward to that because this is always one of the most exciting times of the year for this podcast.
Yeah, especially for me, because Marvel Studios isn't going to be at Comic-Con this year. So, yay! DC wins again!
Yeah, but you would think that they're still going to, release one or two tidbits of news just to...
online?
To stay competitive. And also, Sony's going to have their Venom panel. So we're not going to be completely devoid of news for Marvel.
Yeah, and you still have New Mutants and the Dark Phoenix and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Fox announcing that they're canceling the Dark Phoenix movie. So
I don't know about that.
Hopefully that happens. All right, guys, don't forget that we are releasing a bonus episode this Thursday that will be about our Aquaman script that we wrote. Definitely check that out. Patreon.com/dynamicduel. Go ahead and subscribe for just $2 a month. It would really help us out. And we'll talk to you guys in a week.
Up and away.
True believers.